Hey, you dorks, this is Gunnar Hansen, Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you are listening to The Dorkening.
Hi, I'm Brian Johnson, and although you probably accidentally stumbled across it and have no idea why you're watching it, you are in fact watching The Dorkening.
Hello, this is Tom Kenny, voice actor, the voice of the Ice King on Adventure Time, and SpongeBob SquarePants. Meow. Oh, Gary the Snail, too. Hey, guess what you're filling your eye holes and ear holes with? The Dorkening! Oh, I love The Dorkening. Very popular in Ooh. And Bikini Bottom.
Hi, I'm Lou Ferrigno. You're watching The Dorkening. And you know what? You don't like me when I get angry, so don't get me angry. You better keep watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, this is Felissa Rose, and you're watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, it's Courtney Palm. We're shooting Death House, and you're watching The Dorkening.
This is Anthony Michael Hall, and you're watching The Dorkening. Stay tuned. My friend's going to show you what entertainment's all about, baby.
The Dorkening.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Rise and shine, my sinners. When Father Evil starts his day, he gets a little deadly. Deadly Grounds coffee has the richest, smoothest flavor you'll find anywhere. It's sinfully delicious. Once you go deadly, you never go back. Order yours at getdeadly.com. Coffee's so good, it's scary.
And here we are. Welcome. We are now live on another Indie Creator Spotlight powered by the Dorkening Podcast Network. We got an awesome show with you today. And as always, we have Patrick.
Well, it's
How's
going
it
pretty well,
bud?
Leo. How are you? I hope you're doing all right. You got your 600
okay.
screens in front of you. You have your Mountain Dew, so you're ready to rock and roll. You are caffeinated. You are energized.
Oh my God! How do you see my?
Well, it was when we were recording. You were drinking it. Remember, I can see you just before we start.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Would you like to introduce our awesome guest?
I would. Today we have a writer, just a phenomenal lady, Hansi Oppenheimer, and you just made a phenomenal documentary about a phenomenal writer, and I let a couple of my friends know that I was watching this today, and they were insanely jealous.
Yeah, if you're a Joe fan, the Joe fans are right on top of it. They can't wait to see it. The ones that haven't seen it in the screenings.
Yeah, like some folks were like, oh, I heard there's a doc coming out. Oh, and I really want to see it. Is it widely available yet? I'm like, I can't even find it on IMDb, so I'm going to say no.
Yeah, not yet.
But
Soon.
I can tell you it's really good. Yeah, but I want to see it. I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, we're working on it. It's a process. Especially if you're indie. We've had a couple offers. And Joe's advice has been, be patient, go slow, wait and see, what the offers are. Don't jump at the first offer. So, going to listen to Joe Lansdale when he advises me. I need it not to. So, he's been doing this forever. So
yeah, probably a good call.
And it's kind of a good time right now because everything's kind of on pause anyway. So it's okay to just sort of be like, okay, we're showing it around, we're getting some press. We'll see what offers.
Yeah, build the anticipation for it, and it's I watched it twice myself and absolutely loved it. And yeah,
yeah, I'll say based on the reaction I got on my Facebook post, demand is very high at this point. And whenever you decide that you find the right deal, the right offer that's going to work for you guys, I think you're going to do well because there's a lot of folks that are chomping at the bit to get to this.
But Joe has a really hardcore fandom. I mean,
yeah,
there's the folks that don't know him, but every review I've gotten from those people has pretty much said, like, I never heard of this guy. And then by the end, they're like, now I have to go find, whatever book, The Bottoms or The Drive-In or... So,
I mean, I'll be honest.
A mission from God,
I went into this. I have not read anything that Joe has written. I am very familiar with his work. Because I've had people rave about it and tell me like, oh, you got to watch this, you got to read this, you got to do this. I've seen Bubba Ho-Tep. I'm familiar with Hap Leonard. I just, I haven't been reading as much as I would like to. Yeah. And as I was watching this, that's when I made my post and I was like, I need to know where to start out. Somebody recommend me something by Joe R. Lansdale. So that's my first question to you. If someone's just starting out, what's the first thing that you would recommend that they read?
I mean, because he's written in so many genres, I would ask the person what genre they like, if they like sci-fi or westerns or mysteries or crime or, he's done it all. Of course, I say some of my favorites are like The Drive-In, The Magic Wagon, The Night They Missed the Horror Show, Sunset and Sawdust. But it's hard because there's so many. I mean, there's 50 novels and over 500 short stories. And he's probably like written another 3 novels during quarantine.
Yeah, he's like in the doc where he's like, oh, you're like, oh, what are you working on now? He's like, oh, I got this and this and this and this and this, and if I have time, I'm working on this. Like it's
always like that.
He's so prolific.
He loves it. He really loves it, and how could he be able to do it?
Let alone comics and also the Batman and Superman, the old like Warner Brothers cartoons as well.
Yeah, there's fans of the animated series, The Batman, because he brought Jonah Hex into that. He wrote one of the best episodes of Bats, a lot of people feel.
Yeah. And then the DC showcase as well for Jonah Hex.
And then, Creep Show, right? They did him and Keith and Casey, his kids, co-wrote the companion episode. And one of his stories, actually maybe 2 of his stories are actually in Love, Sex, and Robots.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, his stuff's like everywhere. It's just sort of like, seeking it out. But it's
I need to know which stories now because Robots was amazing.
I was going to say, based on what I saw in the doc, because I want to guess before you say anything. Okay. Based on what I saw in the doc, based on like the different descriptions of his writing style, I'm going to guess that one of them is like the where the people are on the farm and like they have the giant mech suits. Oh yeah. And they're fighting against like this incoming horde of something or other. I might be wrong. I couldn't tell you the name of it.
Do you want me to just say the 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's The Dump.
Okay, that's a good one.
And then Fish Night.
Fish Night, yes.
Which is just like weird. It starts raining fish and it's him like, yeah. But The Dump, I think, is like really classic Lansdale.
Is The Dump the one with the 3 different robots?
No, it's like 2 guys in a dump.
Okay.
I think it's like stop motion too. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of good ones in that series.
Yeah,
a lot of good stories.
Yeah, there wasn't a bad one out of that bunch. It was I was kind of shocked when it came out.
The animator who worked on the vet section, the fever dream section of the drive-in in my film, Yoshi Vu, is a CGI generalist, and he worked on Love, Sex, and Robots, but not any of Joe's episodes, but on that show somewhere.
So I know you said you're taking your time with the documentary, and I know we don't really have cons this year, but have you gone to any? I know there have been some online, not cons, but what the hell is it?
Yeah, like virtual cons.
Yeah. Have you brought your movie to any of those or any of the online film festivals?
So I my previous films, I did a lot of festivals and conventions and panels and stuff. And for me, I felt like it was an expense and didn't really bring in anything except for recognition of my name and my work, which is fine. But this one is different. And I think because of the quality of the people in it and the quality of the work in it, I think this one can, be on Netflix or Shudder or some bigger platform.
Absolutely.
So we showed it at any cons. I don't think we showed it at any cons. We did a couple of 4 walls, like in Austin, New York, LA, and then we did one film festival, Nacogdoches Film Festival, and George R. Martin invited us to screen it at the Cocktail Theater in Santa Fe, which was pretty awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, I saw that picture of you sitting up on stage.
Just having a great time. You see, I'm just like, I can't believe George Martin is asking me questions.
Oh my God, that must have been so surreal.
He was like kind of shocked when I said like our budget. He was just like, "Just hire me. I can do things for $5,000."
And you'll follow the story, unlike a couple other people that.
Yeah.
We won't go there.
Me off and waste. Oh, geez, it's dusty in here. Oh, sorry.
The doc holds together pretty well. Like I'm a pantser, so it didn't. We didn't write anything to start. I don't work that way. I just kind of, it's more conversational. And then it was like, as I, it was, and I'm very visual, so I was kind of trying to like incorporate all the things visually that I think about when I think about Joe, like driving movies and different kinds of media. And he talks about the transition of media as he was growing up, which was a big inspiration for his work. So we tried to blend that all in.
Yeah, I definitely think with a documentary, not having made one myself, but watched a fair few. If you go in with, okay, here's how we're going to do it, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. Like if you want to list like this is who we're going to talk to, that's cool. Like just let everybody just riff off the cuff, especially the folks that you had in this documentary. Like somebody like Joe, I loved the martial arts, that whole scene. Oh my God, that guy looked so uncomfortable.
I know, it's great. I showed it to my grandson. He's like, I want to take karate. He's 7, and he's been taking karate. He's got his yellow belt now. And but he saw that and he's like, that's cool. He's like Batman. Yeah, he looks like that guy looked like he was in pain.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to do this. I really don't want to. Walk. And he's in a headlock.
12th level black belts.
Yeah, he's.
I want him to. I want to ask him to show me like one move. Like if I ever have to do a move on the street, like maybe the one James Profile was talking about, where you hold the wrist upside down.
Mm-hmm.
Something simple for uncoordinated people.
I'm interested in what was in the popcorn.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. Isn't that a crazy story? I just kind of got obsessed with that whole story.
Well,
that was like because I had interviewed him in Nacogdoches when I was in Texas for the first time. I was in Houston for a con, and then I reached out to him on Twitter. I said, I'm going to be in Texas. Can I come interview you? Went to Nacogdoches, had lunch with him. Then we went to the dojo, and we started. And of course, I'd been reading him since the '80s. So I was like, so tell me about how the drive-in happened and the magic wagon, and then and it had like a million. He was so patient and nice, but yeah, the popcorn story is crazy, like the Kroger grease.
Well, that got me to thinking because back in I'd have to say the late '80s, there was a time when they took something out of the movie theater popcorn. Like there was a physical taste difference in the popcorn in the movie theater. And I don't know what it was. I was too young to remember, but I remember that, hearing that story, I'm thinking, okay, were we all having that crazy stuff?
It might just be him. I mean, he was talking about when he gets really tired, he hallucinates and stuff. So it might just be like, because his imagination is always kind of working, that anything, and he doesn't get high or smoke or drink or anything. So I think even the smallest, changing diet might, we might start, having crazy thoughts. But yeah, I mean, I made popcorn. I used to work for Tribeca, and we used to I used to make the popcorn there, and it was palm oil we were using, which is disgusting. But I don't think it had the same effect, because what is in this large stuff. I mean, they took it off the market. Like,
they were feeding hallucinogens to the animals. Yeah, because even Don Coscarelli said something like the whole water moccasin story.
Because you know what? So like, it's a little hard to tell from the interviews because we had the way we had to cut it. But Joe's a prankster, and so of course Don Coscarelli was staying at his house in the basement when they were working on Bubba Ho-Tep, and Joe tells Don, like, if you hear like this noise, it's the water moccasin alarm. So just be careful. So Don had eaten the popcorn, and then he's having all these nightmares about water moccasins. And of course, there was no alarm. It was like, it's just...
That's great, though. Like, you love stuff like that.
I do. It's hilarious. He told another friend when they met Andrew Bax to say, like, Joe was an asshole. And Andrew Bax is like one of the scariest, like brilliant, but really scary people. And, and he and Joe are like brothers, And so when this guy said, oh yeah, Joe's an asshole, Andrew Bax got all like pissed off. And this poor guy is like, wait, no. And then realized Joe had set him up. And he says, even now, like 20 years later, like when he mentions that dude, just cracks up.
That's awesome. That's so great.
Yeah, there's something like a kid about him that's, well, he's kind of like this weird, like half kid and half Yoda.
That's a pretty awesome description of him, because like watching him and like watch him talk about like the different things that inspired him, and like telling all these different stories, it's like he definitely has this like youthful wisdom about him, where it's like he's got this youthful spirit, but like he's wise beyond his, like a playful like Gandalf type.
Yeah, he really is. Like, and I said to him, like, had said something after the screening in Nacogdoches, and I was like, and I was like, the next day I emailed him and I was like, you yoded me, man. And he's like, I don't know what I said, but I'm glad it helped. So I don't think he means to, like, but he's been doing this for a very long time, and he knows the business, and he is very smart. He's figured it out. But yeah, there is this real playfulness about him that I think, you see in all the stories too, which we, are just, it just makes him fun. He's just fun. Like anytime he's talking, he's just, everyone's just like wrapped, except for maybe like his family who might have heard the story a couple of times.
One of the things that I enjoyed about the documentary, it reminds me of, because one of the, like you said in the doc, like he's the best writer you've never heard of. But his background story is, like talking about his childhood is very similar to that of like a Stephen King, like, going to the library a lot, reading until it was time to go see the double features, and then watching the double features, and then getting to see all these different movies, and just like taking in all these different serials. Because like that's what there was to do, aside from listening to the radio. I loved the drive-in story. Like that was fantastic. Especially when he reveals like what happens at the end. It's like, she was a liar. Like,
I know. And it's just and it's the way he tells it too, He's just like this kind of like charming guy, like sitting on the porch telling you stories. whether you're not sure whether you should believe or not.
But like, there's definitely that, like, is he messing with me?
Yeah, well, sometimes, absolutely. But a lot of it is true. I mean, the night they missed the horror show, a lot of that stuff actually happened. And he was like, we were sitting in a cafe and he was like, oh, and over there is where they dragged the dead dog. And I was like, wait, that stuff's real? Like, that happened? Like, how could that have happened? You know, he says, yeah, he mixes, because, you know, East Texas is, you know, weird. You know, so he mixes in the weird that he sees with the weird in his brain and just gets it even weirder. But it all seems to work so well. Like, the craziest stuff happens in his story, but you buy it because the characters are so good.
So we do have the trailer for the documentary. Do we have permission to show it?
Oh, of course.
Awesome. Would you like to do the pleasure of introducing it?
This will be the trailer for my documentary, All Hail the Popcorn King. A documentary about Joe Lansdale, his own damn self.
Try something right at the beginning. Sure. Why did you start writing?
If you've read Joe Lansdale, you love Joe Lansdale.
I wanted to be one ever since I found comic books. But when I read Andhis Furs, I knew I had to be one. I didn't want to be one, I had to be one.
You know, he lives in Nacogdoches, Texas. It's one of the oldest towns in Texas.
It's got so much heritage and so much history.
Who the F is this guy? Great writer who can kill you not only with words, but with his hands.
And Davy Crockett was in Congress in Tennessee, and in fact, when he left, he says, when he lost, he said, you can all go to hell, I'm going to Texas.
Because that didn't turn out so good for him. You know, he died at the Alamo with a lot of other people.
I want everyone to know that not only is he a great artist, but he's a wonderful father.
When I had it, you almost had to stand on top of it to get it to type.
He died at his typewriter, which is the best way to go, you know?
There we go. So was there somebody that you wanted to talk to for the documentary but didn't have a chance to?
Oh, sure. I would love to talk to the Michael K. Williams, is it, who played Leonard? I would love to speak with him. Yeah, we had a list, but we did pretty well. And honestly, for 55 minutes, we had to cut out quite a few interviews. So I'm doing like a special edition DVD for the people who did the fundraiser. And then we'll have like pieces of the interviews that didn't make it into the film because we just couldn't get it all in. It was just, I like short content just because I'm spoiled by the internet now. So I just don't want to watch a 90-minute documentary. I mean, I always feel like there's 20 minutes that's just padding. So I thought, like, let's just make this really tight. I mean, it depends on the documentary, of course. You know, if it's interesting, it's interesting. But a lot of times I feel like they could be tighter. I mean, the 90-minute thing is like a weird old, you know, it's more about theaters than the internet now. So I think shorter is better for the internet. So I think 55 wasn't nice. And Joe and I talked a lot about when I was sort of pitching the project. I sort of pitched it as similar to the Robert Johnson documentary, remastered Devil at the Crossroads on Netflix. And it's like a 45-minute doc. And of course, there's like no footage of Robert Johnson. So they just kind of went to where he was from and they found his grandson and they just sort of told stories, people who, you know, their family had known him or someone had, you know, heard a story. But it was very, very much about the place where Robert Johnson came from. And I feel like with Joe, Nacogdoches and Gladewater, which is where he was born, which is not far from Nacogdoches, is really like, it's, you know, reading his books for 40 years, Nacogdoches always sounded so exotic to me. Yeah.
I think that makes sense. Now, was there anybody that, you know, kind of playing off Leo's question, was there anyone that you hadn't planned on talking to, but was like, hey, I heard through the grapevine that you're making a doc about Joe Lansdale. I need to tell you this story.
Absolutely. Like one day I got an email from Yuri Lowenthal, who I'd never heard of, you know, and then, you know, he said, I'd really like to be part of the film. And I looked him up and I was like, oh, he's the voice of Spider-Man in the game. Cool. He's also in Ben 10 and Teen Titans and a bunch of stuff. And I said, you know, can you send me a video? And he did. and it's in a film, and he's come to all screenings, and he's a sweetheart. We love him.
So that's pretty cool. Like, it just gives you this this sense of how many lives Joe has touched, not just from his presence, but the effect that his writing has had on so many people.
Especially since it's multi-genre as well.
Yeah, and he's also like always been there to like advise, filmmaker writers and people in the industry. Like, I've talked to people who are like, I ran into him in an elevator in a hotel, and I asked him about writing, and he gave me this advice. So he's very generous about advising other writers and supporting them and not competitive with them. I mean, he's very confident in his own unique voice, which I think he's mastered.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges as a writer is because there's so many different people doing so many different things. If you can establish yourself, and establish your voice, even if someone tries to write in your style, a seasoned reader will be like, this doesn't sound like the writer I'm looking at. This doesn't sound like them. I've read enough of their work to know, and this isn't them. And I, again, I haven't read anything, which I will be remedying soon, because the doctor
first, I think, because it's such a gonzo book. I mean, it's really short, it's a quick read, but it's so crazy, and I think it's also really relevant today because it's just about people get trapped and Barbary. Everyone just starts screwing each other over because it's like we're trapped and no more rules apply, and it's really, and it happens in a drive-in. I mean, how cool was it?
And he also, well, I know he did a lot of great stuff, but also one thing that I caught up on was he did a really cool story for Fantastic Four where the Thing got sucked to this like Western world. And, the Thing was like a cowboy, for a little bit.
That's cool. I love weird Westerns, and he's really like one of the best. Yeah, The Magic Wagon is like one of my favorite books, and it's a weird Western, and I both of those, The Drive-In and The Magic Wagon, I would love to see adapted into TV or film or something. And they've been optioned a number of times, but nobody can figure out how to do it. His work
that was
so specific.
That was going to be my next question. Like, if you could pick one of your favorite works by Joe, would you rather see a film, or would you rather see like an HBO series, like Game of Thrones or Watchmen or something like that?
I mean, Hap Leonard was pretty awesome. That was a great series. I was sorry that got canceled after 3 seasons, but when I was talking to Bruce Campbell, because Ash vs. Evil Dead had just been canceled, and I was like talking about that, and I was like, I can't believe they canceled it. It was like one of the best shows ever. And he's like, listen, these days 3 seasons is a hit. You don't get, I mean, like, except for Supernatural, you don't get 15 or 20 years anymore,
Yeah, it's very rare. Like, I think the only things I can think of, like, just off the top of my head, like you said, Supernatural, and then, like, some of the animated stuff, The Simpsons and South Park, they've been going since.
Oh, yeah, they're crazy.
Forever.
Yeah.
They've got, like, 55 years between the two of them. It's insane.
I think actually, like, I really enjoyed the HBO Watchmen series that they
did. That was really good.
Like a self-contained, 9 episodes, and I think that might be an interesting way to approach it. Just do that, like, say, we know the beginning, we know the end, rather than trying to run it for more seasons.
Yeah, I think a good stand, because you can't take a story. They did the Outsider with Stephen King was another one of those, and it's like, here's the story. Like, you only have point A to point B. Like, there's no more source material. You can't keep going. Although with Hap and Leonard, From what I understand, you could have like 30 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 17 books and I don't know how many short stories for Hap Leonard. So they could have, but they wouldn't really never have done that. And the actors wouldn't have stayed that long either. Like, it's just not gonna. But I think they did a really good job for the 3 seasons. And the last season's pretty rough. And I think it's a good thing because it creates dialogue, like between people. But you see this, racism that's still exists, and you kind of thought was fixed, but clearly is not. And Hap and Leonard, run right into it head first, so you see it, and you have to examine your own feelings.
So is there say there's a franchise or a property, like Leo was just saying, he wrote a series or a story for the Fantastic Four. Is there a property for which he hasn't written that, you would, if you got the opportunity, be like, you need to write for this, like, I want to see you write, a Star Wars novel or a Star Trek novel or, something like that. Is there a property that you'd be like, oh, I'd love to see you do a Ninja Turtles story. Like, it'd be so cool.
Occasionally I'll be watching something and I'll think, I wish Joe had written this. But he's pretty much written everything, and I'm like not even like halfway through his books. So I mean, I got like 2 shelves over there, and I can't keep up with his book. I mean, there's so many. I mean, there's a lot of his stuff I'd like to see adapted, but I don't think. I wish they'd have made the film of his Jonah Hex instead of somebody else's story, because his Jonah Hex Two Gun Mojo was. They actually made a motion capture little movie of his, with Tim Truman drawings, and it was so good. It should have been the movie, because I love Jonah Hex.
Yeah, I was looking for when I read up on IMDb that was one of the things I went looking for it on DC Universe, but they took it off.
It's you have to pay for it, but it's on Amazon.
Okay.
I bought it on Amazon.
Yeah.
And, it's a couple episodes, but it's beautiful, and the voice work is great. But I'd love to see that as like a show. I mean, it was also just all the characters I love. Like, I really love Constantine. Not Joe stuff, but and that got canceled in a season. David Goyer. Yeah. I think David Goyer was going to be involved with something with Joe too recently. They were talking about him doing something. Like I said, Joe's always got a million projects. So
yeah, I like that they continued the same Constantine character in what was it? Not Arrow. Arrow. Yeah.
And also, also wasn't it Legends of Tomorrow?
Yep.
Yeah. I love Mark. What's his name? Because he's a perfect Constantine. Like, Keanu Reeves was not John Constantine. It's like wrong, the worst casting possible. But this Mark Ryan, or Matt Ryan.
I think it's Matt.
Yeah, but he looked exactly like I thought John Constantine should look. I was a big fan of Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon and their work, and Hellblazer and Preacher, and so to see the character as the way I had imagined it was nice.
Have there been any adaptations that have been made that you were disappointed with?
Of Joe's stuff?
Yes.
Actually, no, because well, first of all, Joe's really involved in the adaptation. I know he was there every day for the first season shooting of Hap and Leonard, right on the set. Like, if they had a question or I know they made some changes, but he was there. He was part of it. Bubba Ho-Tep is perfect. I mean, you couldn't. It's the most ridiculous story, but it breaks your heart. Like, it's just it's crazy, but it's still really touching. But he had said Don Coscarelli and Jim Mickle and Nick D'Amici really get him, so he's been lucky. I would have liked to have seen what Bill Paxton was going to do. He was going to do, what was it, The Thicket or The Bottoms? I forget which one it was. But then he passed away. Mm. And then and now Peter Dinklage is doing. I guess the other one's going to do The Bottoms, and and Peter Dinklage was going to be doing something with the Thicket. So,
Oh.
but everything's stopped now because of this crazy apocalypse we're having. So, it's not the apocalypse; it's the humidity.
It's okay. We call it the apocalypse as well. It's but we'll get through it. It's an apocalypse. We'll survive. I did see listed on IMDb that there a prequel for Bubba Ho-Tep is listed. Bubba Nosferatu.
Well, they did a book, and they were. I think at the end of Bubba Ho-Tep, they used to have a trailer for they were going to do that, but I don't think that's ever going to happen now.
Yeah.
I think Bruce is too old and just doesn't want to, I think he feels like that's a perfect film, and to do a sequel would just, ruin what's already there.
Yeah, I want to say like that the story of Bubba Ho-Tep, because that whole chain of events which led to Don Coscarelli having nightmares about water moccasins. Like that whole story was very, very interesting. Joe talking about the process of, they made some changes, and he was just impressed with the fact that they were able to film it in the first place because he didn't think it was even, something that could be put onto film. And that whole story, like going back and forth, and the casting of Bruce Campbell, that was a great story. Like that was so funny.
He got to be a hero to his kid. I can't imagine anyone else doing it. And I don't know if it's in the film. It might be in the extras. But Nick Garris told me a story that they had sent the script to Ossie Davis's agent, and the agent passed on it. But because Mick Garris had worked with Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee on The Stand, he was able to get to Ossie Davis and show him the script. And once he saw what it was, and then he was like, "Oh, I'm doing this."
Yeah, like I imagine that was like a super fun project to work on.
Yeah. Although I asked Bruce, "What was your favorite part?" And he's like, "The end." That's just Bruce Campbell being Bruce Campbell, how he is.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I love him, but man, he's a wise ass.
I just want to break in here for a second. So we are talking about the documentary All Hail the Popcorn King, about Joe Lansdale with Hansi Oppenheimer. And you can find information in the show notes down below or up above, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. A bunch of links there to learn more about it and when it's coming out. But we do have an ad for Deadly Grounds Coffee. As you know, more than ever, we need to support local artists like Hansi, and also local businesses like Deadly Grounds Coffee. Awesome mom and pop shop here in Connecticut. They make the absolute best coffee you'll ever have. No doubt. But here's a zombie talking about coffee.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds Coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds Coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Now, Deadly Grounds, if you go to any of the horror cons in the area, well, actually, not the area, in the U.S., they go everywhere, and this year we're not having cons. So, like I suggested, now more than ever, support local businesses and, help them out, and you get awesome tasting coffee. Death by Chocolate is my absolute favorite. Witch's Brew, chocolate raspberry. Oh, my God.
Great commercials. And Father Evil, I've seen him at horror cons for years.
Oh, yeah.
He's always there, It's cool.
Yeah, Father's. Yeah, he's awesome. So I know we talked about the documentary, but also let's talk a little bit about you, Hansi, because you're a self-prescribed geek, as we all are. Let's get to know a little bit more about you. Marvel or DC?
Marvel. Well, Dark Horse. I grew. Well, I really grew up on horror comics. Yeah. I always read like eerie, creepy, famous monsters. I was a monster kid. So superhero is not really my jam, although, there's so much good stuff now that I, got sucked into it. It's almost impossible not to. Like I loved, what were they doing? Those DC, the Marvel shorts, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. I mean, I thought those were so well done. Sorry to see those be so short-lived, but they were really well done. But I like it all, I mean, the weirder the better, though.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Trek.
Trek.
Yeah. Everyone's going to hate me, but I really don't care about Star Wars. I just, I want to, and I just, can't get into it. It's like, oh, God, 3-hour Senate hearings. It's like, but I do understand they are, a really big part of pop culture, and when we took my 7-year-old grandson to Disney World in February. We went to Galaxy's Edge, and it was really cool. And I had to buy my grandson the whole Stormtrooper costume with the voice changer, and I'm like, you're on the wrong side of this, right? I really liked it. So
yeah, it's I enjoy both myself. What's your favorite Star Trek series?
The original.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I like Picard as Captain the best.
Did you like the new series, Picard?
I haven't watched it yet.
Okay.
I tend to less sci-fi. I'm much more like horror and supernatural stuff.
Yeah. We're getting a new Star Trek series where it's going to be Anson Mount is playing the first captain there. What was his name?
Pike.
Yeah. So
the guy who was in one episode, right? And then
well, he was actually
right?
he was in most of the second season of Discovery.
Oh, okay.
So the second season of Discovery is totally the original series, the original Enterprise, and it was actually a really good yeah. What about you, Patrick?
What, do I have any questions, or are you asking me
either or?
Well, I am I'm more of a Star Wars than Star Trek guy, but I grew up watching Trek, and I would have to say my favorite. I never really watched the TV show, but I watched a lot of the movies, and Voyage Home is definitely my favorite one of the original movies. But my question was going to be, if you're a big sci-fi horror fan, I present to you a difficult choice. Do you prefer John Carpenter's The Thing or the original Alien? If you had to pick one.
Well, yeah, always John Carpenter. I fucking love John Carpenter so much.
Okay.
Wait.
Uh-oh.
Actually, I was going to see him at Philly Wizard World. So I had nothing from to sign. So I got...
Eye patch, that's amazing.
And he looked at me and he's like, a little on the nose. And then when we did our photo op, I'm holding a thing of chewing gum. Because,
Yeah.
Body. Yeah, no, I love John Carpenter. And
Funny story. A friend of mine, we do these little, well, they used to be much different, but we did a socially distant gathering this weekend where we all get together. We each read a small, section of something or a short story. And one of the hosts read the original story that that They Live was based on.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Who wrote the original story? Do you remember?
I don't. All of a sudden, now I'm gonna have to think about it. But he had he had a really a commonish name, but he changed it completely to make it even more common. It was Ray Allen or something like that, but he changed it completely and made it shorter. It was weird. Now I'm gonna have to.
Alan Smithy.
They can't use that anymore. I heard that
it's been used too many times. I think you have to. But I remember when I worked in the porn industry, I used to be an editor, and I worked at Playboy TV, and they owned Vivid, Hot Net, Hot Zone, which nobody knew, of course, because Playboy was supposed to be kind of clean, but they owned all the single, double, and triple X stations. So I used to digitize all the footage for the promo department, so they could cut single, double, and triple X versions of everything. And I don't know where I was going with this. I'm sorry. I just totally lost the narrative thread there. What were we talking about?
Oh, okay.
The names, yeah. So I worked on 7 Lives Exposed, which was like a porn reality show back in like 2006 or something. And the executive producer said, like, what name do you want, as your credit? And I'm like, Hansi Oppenheimer. I don't care. And then I was like, damn, I should have used Beaver Cleaver. That would have been awesome.
I found it. The story is called 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's Ray Nelson, the guy who wrote it.
That sounds familiar, actually. That name.
The ending of the.
He might be in anthologies and stuff that I've read.
Possibly. He's done a lot of stuff, although he says, and we found this out on Saturday, his claim to fame, and he said this in like 2006, so bear that in mind, is that he invented the propeller beanie.
Oh my God.
Not that he wrote the story that inspired They Live, that he invented the propeller beanie.
I had friends who had the propeller beanie, and we were all like punks, and this was like the late 70s. And we got invited to we were living all like 6 of us in an apartment, a whole bunch of crazy young punks. And we got invited to some party at University of Pennsylvania, Halloween party. And I went as, this was completely distasteful, but like as a stabbed Sharon Tate. And, everyone was on MDA. And I went in the kitchen, I took ketchup and I wrote Helter Skelter on the fridge. But my friend had a beanie with a turtle and a propeller, and like, yes. So I know that was way off tangent.
That's okay. We totally go off tangent.
Those end up the best stories, though.
It was great to clear the entire room, just freaking everybody out.
Well, Sergio saying hi to everyone. Hello, Sergio.
So with editing in mind, what software do you use to edit?
Well, I use iMovie myself. I've worked when I had professional editing. I was working Final Cut 7, and then they screwed it up, and now it's 10 or whatever it was. And once I went to 10, it was basically iMovie. So I actually had an editor on this film, which made my life so much easier because it's the one part of the process that I really don't enjoy. I love production. I love screenings, and I can set up forwalling and events and everything and promo and all that. And I love designing stuff, but the editing is just tedious and brutal. And I had Brian Harrison Mack, my editor, and he was wonderful. Like, because we, the way we just shot all this footage, and then you have to go through it and find the story, and so we had to find the beats. Yep. And so, like, you just go through tons of footage, and we did. We found the story in it, and he did a great job, like, really getting, like, the visuals I wanted and the style I wanted, and was really good about, like, if he wasn't getting it and I said, like, no, it has to be this way, he'd be like, okay, I'll fix it. There was no, like, oh, but, no defensive. He was really wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah, it's nice when, everybody on the crew, like,
it's
works.
So rare, I think that's that's when you're getting successful, is when you start to work with people who work well with you, because in the beginning, people drop out, you have no money,
Mm-hmm.
So I've had a lot of films, have to be scaled back or had problems with them because I didn't have those contacts. But now, after 40 years, I do, and it's really a good resource, and it's just not even like people in the film industry. It's like, artists and cosplayers and all these creative people that I can, like, reach out to and say, how would you do this? Or do you have a recommendation or a suggestion,
Yeah, it makes sense. You get, which is why you see, like, certain directors and certain, producers working with the same crew, like, a Christopher Nolan or a David O. Russell working with, like, the same 5 or 6 actors over and over and over. I guess Tim Burton might be a good, because he put Helena Bonham Carter and Johnny Depp in everything for like 40 years.
I really kind of wish he'd stop using Deb.
But yeah, it's I understand where you're coming from.
No, I mean to have people you can trust, that will show up and do a good job and give their all. I mean that's really valuable, and it's I mean, so Joe taught me a lot about that too. Like he was the first person I've made a documentary that was collaborative. Like the other people that made documentaries, like they knew about it, but they didn't really want to be part of it. Like the replacements were just kind of like, we don't care, it's the replacements. I don't care about anything, and then Joe Bob Briggs really didn't want me to make the film. He's like, I'm not really happy about it. And I said, I won't use any footage of you, and I'll send it to your people. And if it's okay, I'll publish it, won't make any money from it. And so, we did it that way. But Joe was totally like, I'm down. Let's do this. Let's talk. I have an idea. Which was so great. It's so nice to have, people collaborate and want to be part of it and give you ideas and suggestions and be helpful.
Yeah, I think it's really cool when you have that. I mean, there's so many times where you meet somebody at a con, or you try to interview somebody and you can tell they're just not interested. Like there's really no reason that they're there. They're not going to show up. It's kind of frustrating.
Yeah. I've done that. I do a lot of press coverage for cons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, like when they're just like, you can tell when they're not into it, and it's disappointing, but I do understand. I mean, after you've spoken to how many people a day and been asked the same questions, like, they're human, they get fed up. Joe doesn't seem to, though. He'll just keep on going, he loves it.
You mentioned doing some press at cons. When we had cons, what were some of the favorite ones that you liked hitting?
Well, I love New York Comic Con because it's my hometown con, and it's really easy for me. I mean, I live on the 7 line, so basically it's a straight shot, and I know where all the bars are, and I figured out, which venues to go to now that they've got it spread out all over the place. Stay away from Javits, go to the Hammer, Steam, Smith, whatever that is. That's usually a better place. Plus, it has like 60 stalls in the women's room, and Javits has like 3, which are always like long lines because you have all these cosplayers trying to get out of their costumes to be. But I love New York Comic Con. I enjoy Dragon Con, although there's some things that are problematic about the people who run it or who used to run it. Flame Con is really fun because it's a small con in New York. It's a queer con. So, that's always interesting. I like the diversity. Rhode Island Con, I always go to and do press.
Which one?
Rhode Island Comic Con.
Yep. Yeah, we know
I've
that one.
probably seen you walking around at some point.
Yeah, I have friends who live in Providence, so I always do that one and stay with them. And they actually run the longest running cable sci-fi show. You probably know those people. I'm just drawing a blank. My friend Kat L. I don't know if you know her. And
I might have met. It's
it's like the sci-fi and but yeah,
con families are so extensive.
Yeah, but it's a good con. I like that con, because it's a good size. Although it's getting weirder with when they used to have the photo ops on the main floor, and suddenly they started moving it to like that basement thing. So
the rink.
Yeah, over on the
floor. Yeah,
Duncan side.
Weird, and then I don't want to hang out in the rink all day, so I just.
I mean, it makes sense because it's a big, wide open area. Like it's either a basketball court or a hockey rink. So it's big enough to, get everybody in there, and you can, kind of
to interact. Although there's a bar. What's the one? The first hotel you go through.
Omni.
Yeah, maybe. There's a bar in the Omni that I always end up just sort of hanging out. I sort of make my office and hang out, and that's always fun because when people will walk in and hang out and get to chat there in a more casual atmosphere than approaching them at their desk, or if they're doing photo ops, you're not even going to see them because they're,
Yeah.
you
You ever hit Terrificon?
I have not, although I had signed up for Drink Press for this year for that. But yeah, I've done Awesome Con, I've done panels there. What's the one? Emerald City. I've done that one. I did Phoenix Con the year the guy tried to kill Jason David Frank.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
And he brought throwing stars. Like, I mean, he had a gun too, but yeah. I mean, it was really good that someone called it in and they got him and no one got hurt, but it was a mess because they didn't have the security.
Yeah,
So
that's insane.
get rid of their cosplay stuff, and the line was like 2 hours to get in the Phoenix Sun, and it was rough. But with the third day, they had really good security there, but I mean, Javits, I've brought a 6-pack in. It's just like, you're an old lady, go ahead, we don't care, but okay. It may not be that way when they come back. I don't know what's going to happen with.
Yeah, I just want them to come back.
San Diego last year for the first time, and probably that'll be the only time. I really didn't like it.
I've heard that there's just too much to do, and if you
nobody has information, you're sent here, you're sent there, you're on a line. We had to line up the night before to get the wristbands for Supernatural's panel the next day, and then the next day you get there and they're just letting everybody on the line whether you have a wristband or not. So I wasted my evening the night before standing in the line for a wristband when
Yeah.
So
yeah, I heard that.
I understand the people who been going the people who've been going there for 50 years, that was their homecoming. They've seen it grow and they have a community there. I understand why that's important, but for me it was just too big.
I heard somebody was telling me oh, I wanted to go to this panel in Hall H, but it wasn't until 2:00, but I had to get there at 7 and sit there and wait because if you get up, someone's taking your seat.
Yeah. Although I think they clear everything now. They didn't used to clear New York, but they clear New York, the main stage in New York now, although they don't clear the Hammerstein or Stein or whatever it is. So that's why I like that one. But they didn't used to when I first started on New York Comic Con. They didn't clear the main stage. So I would do that on Saturday, go there in the morning, and just keep moving down until you're right near the front. There was one time the X-Files panel, and I was on the end seat because I was shooting and stuff. And there were 2 people next to me, and the guy gets up to ask a question, and then he asks his girlfriend to marry him, So then the cameras all go over to her who's next to me, and I'm I don't want to be part of this, people. Could you just told me before you went to the mic? I'd have gotten out of the way.
I mean, it's memorable. You remembered it, and you don't even know them.
I know, but I don't like when people take the time away from the fans for their own personal shenanigans, because there's so much of that,
Well, even in the lines, I've told the story on the show before, but I was in line to get William Shatner's autograph, and he was only allowing 30 seconds per person, and they're doing a great job moving everything. It's a huge line, and my wife was saying line's long, but it looks like it's moving fast. So I get in line and waiting, and I just had one question for him. I can't even remember what it was, and the guy in front of me. When it was my turn to get my autograph and ask him a question, the guy in front of me scooted back to ask another question, totally taking up my time. Yeah. But I got his autograph. I got to meet him, and
But I hate that when they're one question and then somebody gets up. I have a 2-part question. And they're oh no. Or they start telling some long story. But I love Bruce Campbell for that because he will take no shit in a panel. If it's not a question, he's that's not a question, next. Yeah. One time somebody said, can you repeat, whatever line it was? And he was sure, if I was your fucking little monkey.
That's amazing.
No crap. And he just, we just love him for it.
I mean, it makes sense. Like these are the panels for fans to ask questions. Like oh, say the line. It's like no.
I know, like, how would you? That's so rude. And like, they probably don't even remember the lines. Like, they read it, they did it. It's not like they don't watch it a million times like us. They're not, Yeah, it's a weird. People just have like weird concepts about who they are and their characters and get confused and stuff. A little etiquette. Con etiquette needed, yeah.
Well, I'm sure when cons come back, things will be a lot different. So
well, I'm curious to see like if we go back to smaller cons.
Yeah.
I think that might actually be a good thing.
Well, even the
really, really big and really expensive.
Even the smaller cons have been. I mean, the explosion of cons the last several years has been crazy. But we normally hit a smaller one here in Massachusetts, Super Mega Fest.
Oh yeah, I've done that one.
Yeah. Great con, but it's it definitely gets busy,
Yeah. And I've screened there. I screened my Squeeze stuff there, my fangirl stuff there.
Nice.
Yeah, we were in a hallway last year.
Yeah. Well, he normally puts us in the hallway anyway.
But it was nice because we were right outside, like one of the panel rooms. So, like, as everybody's coming out, like, we're right there.
Yeah.
Who was it? I want to say Will Wheaton, but I'm not sure. So it was one of the cons in New England.
Yeah, Will Wheaton was there. That was their big get, I think, probably 3 years ago when they were at the old location, like the open up, not in a hotel that looks like a castle.
Yeah, it was like a big flat.
Yep.
They had like the screening room was basically just like they just put a curtain around an area of concrete.
Yeah.
So like we got this thing and Will Wheaton's right there, and I'm like, I wonder if he's here in the movie.
Yeah, the new place where they are now, everything is like separate rooms. It's in a big hotel, and it's definitely their original location from I think like 5 years ago, and they moved back, which is great.
But yeah, there's so many little cons now. I mean, and so many specialized cons, and then there was just the Walking Dead cons, and the all the different.
Yeah, that was Walker Stalker. Yeah,
those were fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Watching the show, I guess 2 years ago.
Oh, when Rick left?
No, before that, I think.
The Negan arc.
Pulled off Glenn. I was just like, I watched the whole season, but then I was just like, that's it, I'm out.
Yeah.
Because I used to love it. It used to be great, but I think it's just gone on too long for me. But I'm sure the fans don't feel that way.
Well, it definitely, the show definitely took a dive. But now they have a new showrunner, and last season was actually pretty good.
Angela King.
Yeah.
Although I really love Polly McIntosh's, the trash people.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
She was great. About the whole, the way they talked and everything. They all had the,
eliminating all the extra words.
Like in the before 4 times.
Yeah.
She really sold it. It was good. It's weird to see, every once in a while, I'll check an episode. And it's weird to see, her character is now just, a normal character. It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah, it's not as, yeah.
Well, she got taken away. So it's, I believe she'll probably be in the movie with Rick.
Oh, yeah. I heard they were doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, so now the only main character left is,
Daryl from the first season.
Daryl, yep. And
what about
Maggie? Yep. No, Maggie's gone.
Yeah, I knew Maggie was leaving because it's.
She was on that other show that when I saw the commercial, I was like, yeah, so she'll be back on Walking Dead in 6 weeks after this is off the air.
Yeah,
it looks terrible. And I guess there was a Easter egg or something that she's back, or they heard her say. I haven't watched the most recent episodes, but she's supposedly coming back.
What about Carol? Is Carol still there?
No, he did.
No, Carol. She's so it's Carol and Daryl are pretty much.
I thought she said Carl.
Yeah, Carl's gone.
For that, which seemed unnecessary, but okay.
Yeah.
I was Carol, and I like Ezekiel. Is it Ezekiel?
Ezekiel's gone.
Yeah, didn't he
or
something?
He had. Oh no! He's still around.
He's like the king of this medieval like
That
Renaissance festival group of survivors. You know.
yeah, he's on a mission now to. I think they're going through a large city, and they just ran into somebody crazy. But yeah, the kingdom's gone. They did a whole story arc with the Whisperers.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I heard it was really good though.
Yeah.
The woman that plays Alpha is phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what my geek friends had told me.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's really good. Like it's been like there's definitely a rivalry with her and Carol that goes back and forth, and that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll come back to it, and my brain's kind of weird now with all this shit going on. So
well, they have like this 5-year time jump. Like Judith is like, Judith is like 6 or 7 years old now, and like she has Rick's hat and gun.
And Negan is a major player now.
Yeah, I never really bought Negan. Like I could never understand why anyone would follow him. Like I understood the governor.
Yep.
Because the governor was charismatic, but really sociopath. I understood that, but Negan just seemed like a bully. Like why would you follow him?
Because other people that want to be bullies, kind of, I don't know. Some of the other characters were big time jerks.
Yeah,
I think they, attracts
yeah. And ironically, I'm discussing this anyway. This sort of situation in the country right now, anyway. So,
have either of you gone out grocery shopping and thinking we're living during The Walking Dead right now? You're scavenging for food. Going into the grocery store trying to find out what they have left.
Yeah,
all the brain dead zombies with no masks walking around.
Yep.
Yeah, it does feel apocalyptic. It really does.
You hear somebody make a cough and you freak out.
So a punk in the 70s, which is pretty apocalyptic.
Yeah.
So it's kind of I kind of knew it was going to come to this.
Well, the good thing is, all three of us, you said you're in New York, Patrick, you're in Mass and Connecticut. The 3 states are doing okay with this.
Yeah, the Northeast really, pulled it together quickly.
Yeah.
I was pretty proud of us, and everybody did their part, stayed home. I mean, they're going to have to close the rest of the country.
Yeah.
To stop this. Otherwise, they're going to get rid of it.
They just had to postpone 2 series in baseball because the 14 people on the Marlins tested positive. Because you see all the guys in the dugout, they're supposed to be wearing their masks, but they're a guy hits a home run and nobody wears their mask and it's they're in Miami. What are you doing? Do a bubble city like NHL is doing, where everybody's up in Toronto.
Yeah,
Toronto won't even let
Toronto, closed it down really fast. They were great.
Toronto's not even letting the Blue Jays play their home games in Toronto. They're you have to find somewhere else. The season has started, and Toronto still doesn't have a place to play their home games.
Well, I mean,
they asked Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh said no. They asked Baltimore. Baltimore said no. It's oh, this is a well thought out plan. Nice job, guys. You got 14 people testing positive, and you have to shut down all these games. You got Toronto, who doesn't have a place to play.
It's a mess.
So stupid.
Yeah, the whole thing was stupid. They could have avoided this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get through it. So for people just joining us, we are talking about the Joe Lansdale documentary, All Hail the Popcorn King. I'm going to play the trailer one last time, and when we get back, we'll cover last questions, and here we go.
Try something right at the beginning. Sure. Why did you start writing?
If you've read Joe Lansdale, you love Joe Lansdale.
I wanted to be one ever since I found comic books. But when I read Andhis Prose, I knew I had to be one. I didn't want to be one, I had to be one.
You know, he lives in Nacogdoches, Texas. It's one of the oldest towns in Texas.
It's got so much heritage and so much history.
Who the F is this guy? Great writer who can kill you not only with words, but with his hands.
And Davy Crockett was in Congress in Tennessee, and in fact, when he left, he says, when he lost, he said, you can all go to hell, I'm going to Texas.
Because that didn't turn out so good for him. You know, he died at the Alamo with a lot of other people.
I want everyone to know that not only is he a great artist, but he's a wonderful father.
But when I had him, you almost had to stand on top of it to get it to type.
He died at his typewriter, which is the best way to go, you know.
So what's next on your list, Hansi?
For making films?
Yeah. For what's your next project you're going to be working on?
Well, John Skip and Brian Keane and I have been talking about working together on a splatterpunk documentary. We were going to start shooting in March, but so I suggested we do it all by Zoom because but yeah, John Skip wants it to be prettier than that. So
yeah, I love Brian Keane.
Oh yeah, he's great. He was I did a panel with the Lansdales and Brian Keane at KillerCon in Austin, and he's a great moderator, and I love his podcast. Great writer,
mm-hmm.
And another one who really supports the community. There's that whole bunch of those, the horror writers. They really, the Masters of Horror and all those guys, they all really support each other.
Yeah, he gave me some great advice when I was just starting out, when I was, probably 10, 12 years ago. We interacted a lot on Twitter, and he is just fantastic.
Yeah, they all are kind of supportive of it and give advice and understand the struggle. It's nice to find a little niche of the arts where it's not competitive, where it's very it's a community.
Yeah.
Have you seen the show Josh Gad is doing on YouTube?
I have not.
It's I forgot the name of it, but he's doing all these reunions. He did a Back to the Future reunion. But I would highly recommend checking it out because it's all through Zoom-ish. I don't know if they're using Zoom or not, but it's highly edited. And looking at that, so they have the Zoom call, but each person has their own individual camera set up, off to the side as well. So it gives a really nice polish to it as well. You might want to look into it. It could be
and it's a great way to do it. I have a friend who is the post producer or whatever, the top one post for the Penn and Teller show. I forget what it's called. But Alex Hannigan was the host for a while. I don't know if she's
Fool Penn and Teller.
Fool Us.
Yeah, that's it. So I was just talking to him earlier in the week, and he was saying it's been really crazy because they've been, they've had to do it that way, go over and put professional camera setups at everybody's place, and then let them shoot it, and then work the media. So yeah, whole new world,
Yeah,
but I do like working from home. That I could be totally cool with.
Oh, totally. Every different people in my office said it's going to be tough to get us back in. I work for a large company. It's I think it's 12,000 employees, and they have everybody working from home.
Well, why even pay for real estate?
Oh yeah.
If you keep working from home, just do that. It's and then you're saving on transportation and all the time you spend running back and forth. I think it's really smart.
I just put gas in my car for the first time, and I think I just put $10 in my gas tank, and it's only the third time I've gotten gas since the middle of March.
Yeah, New York, they got rid of alternate. Every once in a while they'll be alternate for a week, but then there'll be 3 weeks of no alternate, which is, in New York, it's that's just the best. I don't have to run out of here at 6 a.m. to move my car to the other side. Is there anything else I can fill you in about the film, or any questions you had about the making of it, or anyone in it?
You have any Last minute questions, Patrick.
I mean, there's a lot that I have that I'm very curious about, but I know we're running short on time.
Yeah, we actually ran a little long. It was a great conversation tonight.
Weeks.
Yeah, I mean that's what happens.
Yeah, and we're gonna hang out once cons start again to the Northeast cons. We'll end up hanging out again. So
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I'm curious about some of the stuff that got cut. I'm curious about, what was it like just going around with Joe, just reliving, childhood memories and talking about all this stuff and what did you guys have for lunch? Did he get the same type of sandwich every single day? There's so many of these questions. That's just
Joe feeds. After every screening and everything, he would take everybody on the crew and his friends out, and feed us really well, and always refuse anyone else paying the bill. So this real Texas kind of we understand you have to feed people this really blue collar kind of generosity, and just really sweet. And driving around with him, it would me and him in the car, me and him in the camera, and it's my favorite part of making the film because getting to hang out with somebody whose work I've idolized since the 80s, and we're just hanging out. There's no and he's so cool about it that I didn't feel nervous at all, and so we're just talking shit. He's so interesting. And one time we stopped at a red light. My daughter called, so I took it, and I'm like, hi, honey. Look, I'm with Joe Lansdale, and and she's like, don't kill my mother. She thought he was driving while he was looking at the phone. I was like, it's fine. I'll take
We're swapped. It's okay.
And what I loved is he had the beware of dog sign on the outside, and when he showed the dog, it looked like the most lovable dog.
Oh my God. Nikki is poor Nikki has been traumatized by a bunny. There's a bunny in the woods that comes up and threatens Nikki, and comes and looks in the window, and Nikki runs away because he doesn't understand he's a 90-pound pit. And the bunny is
just
yeah, I'm gonna eat you. But Nikki's just Nikki's like a baby. He's just the sweetest. I mean, the way Joe and Karen, they've always had dogs. They love dogs. And he's just Joe posts pictures on Twitter of him all the time. And, Nikki'd be laying there like this. And the ball is a foot away from him. And he's looking at Joe could you get that for him? They spoil him rotten, but, good. They're good people.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to have you back. When Clint, figures out, the release date, definitely keep us in the loop.
Absolutely.
We'd love to know more, and we absolutely love the documentary. And we urge you to definitely check the show notes down below or up above, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. Bunch of information there where you can follow Hansi. Where do you like people interacting with you most on social media?
Twitter.
Twitter?
So, at Squee Projects.
Okay. Everybody's different. Some people just like Instagram. Some people hate Twitter. Some people just go, Facebook or TikTok or whatever they're doing. What about you, Patrick?
Oh, I like people. The best thing is if you go to throwdownthursdaypodcast.com, that has all the links to our social media. It has links to Deadly Grounds Coffee. It has the latest episodes of both Shark Bites and Throwdown Thursday. It has links to our YouTube channel where I yesterday just did my first online NBA 2K game against my brother, and he definitely beat me. I was doing okay for a while, and then I wasn't. And
wasn't.
But he plays a lot, and I don't play that game as much. And when I do, I make it so I change all the settings. So my team is super awesome and everyone else is terrible. So I just feel like I'm doing much better. But there's gameplay footage on there. There's, we do live events occasionally, and I would recommend checking out the Dorkening YouTube channel for the 3-hour interview we just did with the cast of Axe to Grind, including the 35 minutes that we got to spend with Stormy Daniels, because that was a lot of fun.
And yeah, you can find out more about that and all the other shows on the network. If you head on over to thedorkening.com, you can find all the shows. About 28 shows on the network now. And, we just keep on growing. And, more importantly, check out our awesome guests. And I want to thank everybody here. And we'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Thank you.
That awkward silence when the stream is closing.
Almost there.
Yeah, it's spinning. It's spinning.
Continue to have a good night. We're still saying goodbye.
We should do like those freeze frames.
Yeah, we should jump in the air like
Yeah, no Minnesota goodbye. You have to do it at least 3 times before it takes.
Yeah, we're still going.
Yeah, it says they're having trouble. Please check your internet connection, but we're streaming.
I will say, I want to touch on a couple of the questions that were in there. Sergio, you are the man. I just want to mention that you are the man.
That could have been phrasing asking, "Are you a man?"
Yeah, well, I know what he's saying because obviously he's saying I'm the man.
I know.
But no, you are the man, Sergio. You are always on these streams.
Nice to have fans.
Yeah.
Nice to have friends who support your work. It makes a big difference.
I have my biggest fans right next to me.
Oh, God.
That is the type of humor you're going to get from me.
So all those shows that's on your webpage, The Dorkening, those are like, it's like a community of other people who work with you too. That's very cool.
Yeah, we so I started doing this with my cousin back in 2013, and we started doing one show, and then we started doing like several other shows during the week. It was crazy. We were doing like 4 shows a week, and somebody asked us to join a network. We joined, and had didn't really like how everything was being run, so they made a suggestion. Why don't you start your own network? So I did. And
you,
yeah. And yeah, it's just we don't own. I don't take ownership of anybody's podcast, and the whole thing is trying to make sure that everybody knows that because there's so many scammers out there. I want each of the shows on our network to know they own their feed, they own their content. If they ever want to up and leave, they can do that. But showing everybody how to manage your feeds and how to make sure that your RSS feed, you need to maintain control over that. Don't let anybody else take your content. And I think that's a big part of it. It's and then each show can individually grow on their own. It's not one big web. I mean, we have all the feeds going into one website, but it's all individual feeds. So, it's I think that's important because
because you're bringing all this community together, and everyone is like, if you like one show, you might like another, and then everyone's working, their own stuff, but they're all supporting each other. I think that's great.
Exactly, and it's a small community where we can all help each other as well.
And speaking of supporting, I just followed you on Twitter. I love your cover photo and I love your profile picture. Like those are both phenomenal. Like sometimes I'm Snake Plissken.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's so great. Shameful admission. I just watched that movie for the first time about a month ago.
Escape from New York?
Escape from New York. I'd never seen it. There's a lot of those movies, and like people give me so much stuff for it, but it's like I'm getting to them. Like, yeah, I know I'm almost 40 and I hadn't seen it yet, but
you're young, man.
I'm getting to them. Yeah. How could you have not seen that yet? Because there's a lot of movies.
Yeah,
a lot of movies.
So like, you were born then.
Yeah, I was born in 81.
Yeah.
So, that wasn't, I think this came out in 81. So like,
so, but it's such a good movie, right?
It was so much. Donald Pleasance. I love Donald Pleasance.
Everybody in it. And, Adrienne Barbeau, of course, is amazing. And Ernest Borgnine.
Everything. I love Ernest Borgnine. I think my favorite Ernest Borgnine role is Probably the Poseidon Adventure.
Oh my god, I just watched that again, for the umpteenth time. But like it had been years since I watched it, and I rewatched it. It was like everybody except Gene Hackman is great. Gene Hackman is just like chewing the.
He's Gene Hackman, like.
Yeah, it was really over. I mean, it seems because the style of the filmmaking was different at the time. He just seems very over the top. But like Shelley Winters and like everybody in it is so good.
Shelley Winters. Yeah. I don't want to wreck it for anybody that hasn't seen it, but oof. Have you seen the sequel, Beyond the Poseidon Adventure?
I have not.
Oh, Telly Savalas and Michael Caine. They find, like, they heard the distress call. So after everybody gets rescued, they go and they try to loot the ship.
Huh.
Like
it's like Tubi or something? It's got to be on something like that.
I can find out. There's a great app, and anybody watching, it's called Just Watch. You download it and then you put in whatever movie you're looking for, and it tells you where it's streaming, and if it's not streaming, they'll tell you where it is and how much it is.
Oh, cool.
It's a great
because I'm always looking for stuff, and then it's like, I have Netflix and Amazon and Showtime and Shudder, but like, you have to swap them around a while to get everything because.
Oh, I forgot Peter Boyle was in that.